Hello and welcome. Today on Wheels Boy, we've got big van energy because we're going to be rolling around in this, the Denza D9. Let's get started.
With hands-on test drives and reviews of exciting Chinese market vehicles, Wheels Boy is the #1 source for China auto insights. Be sure to check us out on Instagram and Facebook.
A rose by any other name would smell as sweet, and an MPV by any other name is just a big box. So how do you separate your big box from other people's big boxes? Well, you give it a big face. In the case of the Denza D9, you can actually tell which model you're dealing with based on the face design. What you're seeing now is a repeated kind of wing pattern, which tells you this is the plug-in hybrid model. If you saw vertical streaks, that would be the pure EV. Some other very useful information, if you notice that the car has LEDs dropping down like this, you're dealing with a top spec model. Other models, they just have an aluminum look piece right here. That's right, while there is a pure EV version of this car available, as you can tell by the grille, and the fact that there's a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder under the hood, we are dealing with the PHEV version, the plug-in hybrid. Now, just to keep things complicated, there are still 3 different versions of the PHEV, each with a different combination of battery and motor.
Pure EV range can be anywhere from 50 to 190 kilometers on the WLTC cycle, with a combined gas and electric range of 945 to 1,040 kilometers on the NEDC cycle. Our test car is the range-topping dual-motor PHEV model that makes 299 kilowatts and 681 newton-meters of torque. It has a pure EV range of 180 kilometers thanks to a 40.6 kilowatt-hour battery and a combined range of 970 kilometers.
The pure EV versions use a 103 kilowatt-hour battery pack to deliver anywhere from 600 to 620 kilometers of range, depending whether you get the single front-mounted motor or the dual-motor version. Of course, that range is offered in China's CLTC standard, because why offer your range in one standard when you can do it in all 3? I grew up around minivans in the United States, and while I understand they've increased in size since my youth, I've always felt that the vans in this segment, the large mid-size segment here in China, felt way bigger than the ones that I was used to. When you look at the data, this thing's actually almost as long, or about as long and about as wide as a Toyota Sienna. However, when you look at the height, you realize why it feels so big. This thing is 15.5 centimeters, or a little over 6 inches taller than a Toyota Sienna. That also explains why I feel very short standing next to it, so why don't we get in the front seat so I can stop looking like a little person. I like to conceptualize my large luxury MPVs like an estate. There's the main house, that's the second row, and then there's the guest house on the estate. That's the first row. I guess that makes the third row some kind of shed attached to the main house. I don't know, it's a sweaty metaphor, but my point is let's start by talking about what's up here in the first row. Starting with technology, you have a 15.6-inch center screen and a 10.25-inch digital instrument cluster. Now, this is a BYD sub-brand, however, this screen does not flip from landscape to portrait and vice versa like a BYD. Other things in terms of technology, you also have a bunch of capacitive touch buttons here on your center console. I am not a huge fan of capacitive touch buttons, but let's put that to the side and have a look at some of the functions that you can control via this panel. That starts, of course, with the 2 buttons up here on the top left and top right, which allow you to open the 2 rear doors, right door and left door, obviously. Down below that, this one opens your trunk. This one over here opens the little compartment in the back here, but we'll get to that in a moment. It's quite cool. If we move to the center, you'll see that there is a volume and media on and off button here. You also have your parking controls. This is for your parking sensors to turn on and off. I love having that in the car, by the way. Makes it so easy to go through a car wash, for example, without listening to a beep, 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 beep all the time. This is your automatic parking function, auto hold, and then we get down to our first switch here. This allows you to go from your full EV to hybrid mode, aka combining the gas and electric motor, or simply using the electric motors if you have enough battery. Finally, over here in this row, you have your air conditioning controls and your switch for controlling your driving mode. Actually, beyond that, in the middle, you also have your snow and ice driving mode, which is separate from your other driving modes for some reason. Interior material quality and fit and finish is impressive, and it should be, considering the fact that they're asking $65,000 US for this particular car. That means there's a lot of soft touch materials, top and bottom, as well as real wood trim. In fact, this open pore wood reminds me of something you might find in a Mercedes-Benz E-Class. The seats also feel very high quality, both supportive and very soft. In terms of storage solutions, I would say this car actually falls behind more traditional minivans like the Toyota Sienna that I mentioned before. You do have 2 cup holders here. You also have a wireless charging pad here in front of your shift lever as well. Glove compartment, decently sized as you can see. Between the seats, this storage area is actually very shallow. It only goes down, say, about that deep. Not very impressive. And then you have the center tunnel storage area as well, which, pretty big, but it's actually not very easy to get things inside of it. Now let's check out the main house, which is even more impressive than the front. There are in total 7 screens inside of this car. Let's count them. There's these 2 screens here in front of me. There's 2 here built into the armrests. There's the large center screen and the instrument cluster, and finally, a heads-up display. Let's break that down a little bit further and get into the details of this screen for starters. This is a 12.8-inch infotainment screen, and as you can see, there's also one over here on the passenger side as well. This can be used to play your media, for example, your streaming music and streaming podcasts as well. You also have a video center here where you can pick from different platforms that have all sorts of movies and videos. Speaking of movies and videos, this screen, that screen, and the big screen up front can all be connected at the touch of a button. That way you can display the same movie or TV show, or even KTV in this case, across all 3 screens. You can also, of course, independently watch different videos or listen to different music as well. Not only that, it can also be used to control various other functions. Take, for example, your air conditioning, as well as things like the overhead panoramic sunroof. You can also input GPS locations as well. This thing can control most of your seating functions as well, but to control all the seating functions, you need to go down to here, this 5.5-inch LCD display. As I mentioned before, this small 5.5-inch LCD screen is used to control all of your seating functions as well as many other functions as well. For starters, in order to unlock it, you swipe up, and then you can use it to do things like close the door. That's also a function you can do on this center screen. There is no physical button easily available for you to close the door other than the handle back here, which is actually quite hard to reach from this angle. Here on the little screen, what you do is that you swipe and slide over, and then there we go. Once you've closed the door, you can then begin exploring the other functions. Obviously, there's the same media controls that you have for the large screen here, except it's really just your music. Can't really watch videos on this. Then you get down to the seating functions here. That includes everything from massage, of which there are various modes, to heating and cooling. You can also, of course, adjust all the various angles and everything on your seat as well, including lumbar support, which you don't often see in a second row seat. Once you get past those functions, you get to some other pretty interesting stuff. Take, for example, this. I mentioned before that there was a rear compartment. Watch this. This thing is called the Magic Box, and as you can see, it's basically just a storage compartment where you can put some things. Let me close it back up for you. I don't think it really lives up to the name, but always good to have more storage. More interestingly, however, is underneath of that, you have a second storage compartment that can actually be used as either a refrigerator or it can be used to heat up things or keep them hot. That, I think, is a much more useful feature. This is a van, so practicality needs to come first. To that end, in addition to the 2 compartments that I already mentioned here, there's also quite a few cup holders. Not only do you have the 2 here in the center, as well as 1 on each door, you also have kind of a hidden little one that pops up right here. in between the seats. You can put 2 more cups, and there's a little table as well. Don't worry about your phone either. In addition to the USB port here, there's also a wireless charging pad where you can securely slide your phone. I was a little disappointed when I realized there were no vanity mirrors for the second row in the D9, but then I realized it had this function. This is simply called mirror. Yes, a little camera does pop up here on the top of the screen and allows you to see an image of yourself, which you can also touch and take a snapshot of. When you're ready to exit the car, or in my case, check out the third row, you hit the small button on the side here to return the seat to its normal position. Now I'm going to climb between the 2 seats because this is not easy to fold down. Let's see here. As you can see, I have the seat adjusted very far back, but it still leaves me a little bit of leg room left over. Rear occupants do have their own AC ports, of course, as well as 1 USB port on the right side and 1 over here on the left. You also have an impressive 4 cup holders in total. The third row also has adjustability both forward and aft, as you can see, as well as with rake, like this. Behind the seats is 410 liters of space, but you can increase that by folding these things down nearly completely flat.
The D9 comes with the expected litany of driver assistance acronyms, including ACC, LKA, LCC, BSD, FCW, LCA, APA, and RPA.
I would have loved to have been able to experience the full EV version of this car, because I've always felt that the combination of a smooth, quiet EV powertrain and the natural characteristics of a big MPV would work really well together. Thankfully, the PHEV that we're driving right now gave me a taste of what that would be like, because that 1.5-liter Turbo 4 doesn't kick on that often. I've got to say, cruising around at low speeds with this EV motor, this experience is exactly what I thought it would be. Smooth, quiet, it emphasizes all the best things about big luxury MPVs. When the 1.5 turbo and eCVT do kick in and start to do their thing, they're not especially intrusive. That's because Denza seems to have gone to a big effort to try and control NVH in this car, including double pane glass all around. In terms of ride, well, previous Denzas just felt like tarted up versions of BYDs. They didn't ride particularly like luxury cars. This one actually does. The way that it absorbs bumps is very comfortable, and it actually makes it feel worthy of being called BYD's high-end brand. In fact, that seems like a good summary of the D9. Whether it's exterior, interior, styling, or driving experience, this is the first Denza that I actually feel like is worthy of being called BYD's high-end brand. The D9 is the best vehicle that Denza has ever produced. It's also the one that seems to have had the least amount of involvement from joint venture partner Mercedes-Benz. I couldn't tell you if that was a factor or not in its success, but what I can tell you is a factor is that BYD is flush with cash from their continuing domination of China's new energy vehicle market. They seem intent on using that money to turn Denza from an also-ran to a winner. All right, that's all for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to check us out on all of our social media and our website, links in the description below. And as always, like, subscribe, and hit the bell.